Hi everyone, this is Kat of KatalystHolistic Life Coaching, bringing your life in alignment with you. I'm here today to do your reading for this new lunar cycle in Scorpio. The new moon occurred for us here in Mountain Time on November 14th, around 10 p.m. So maybe different depending on where you live, but it is working into the waxing part of the cycle now. And we are about to move out of Scorpio season into Sagittarius season coming up on about the 22nd. So we're switching over kind of from these watery, mysterious depths to this really expansive, far-reaching fire sign. But with this new moon falling in Scorpio, and especially since we were just coming out of Mercury retrograde that was also in Scorpio and back into Libra, that's moving into out of its shadow cycle from Scorpio on the 19th and the 20th. So we'll be back to where we started. So for me, what this is kind of saying is that we're really what we were starting to get kind of prepared to move into, what we were getting ready to kind of start moving forward. Mercury kind of took us back and was like, well, here's the deeper parts of it that you have to really look at. And especially with Scorpio, with this card, the representation of working through your fears. So whatever self-limiting beliefs or old patterns that are buried way down deep that are keeping us from that trajectory have now really come to the forefront. Most of us really experience Scorpio season this way. Sometimes it may not be as heavy, but that just depends on where you are in your cycle. Like if it's something you've been working hard to already get past, then maybe it came around just to revisit, to kind of retest you, and you passed with flying colors. Or maybe this is something new to you that you haven't really experienced before, and now you're getting this new perspective of, okay, how do I move forward in a more grounded way? How do I heal these deeper aspects? And we have a very powerful chart going on with this new moon. Lots of really interesting aspects of yods and T-squares, lots of sextiles. And so I feel like we're finally getting that push to really move forward from what we have learned. Like we're ready to take this step instead of maybe over this Mercury retrograde, we've really been feeling just kind of wallowing maybe in the bad feelings of it. And now, especially with Mars just went direct this week as well, we're ready to kind of just meet it with the same energy, to meet it with the same kind of upbeatness as we were before. Now we're just have different tools to kind of approach that with. So this is just a general overall reading for the collective. We are working with the Weaver Tarot, and we've got your moon cards and some goddess cards. So however this is showing up for you, this is something that can be in your energy over the next 6 months until the moon comes full into Scorpio. So whenever you are finding this, it's exactly what you needed to hear at the right time. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. So the tarot card for this lunar cycle is the High Sage in the reverse, also representing the High Priestess in the traditional tarot. So with her being in the reverse, it's also interesting that there are these lunar cycles going on as well, like the wisdom of cycles in nature. The High Priestess is like the really divine feminine. It's the intuition, it's the mystic kind of realms. And with her being in the reverse, this could really be asking you, you know, those kind of illusions that we have been telling ourselves, like whatever cycle we might be in, the place that we're moving through now, maybe what's really starting to actually come into your foresight is more of the truth of your fears and how they've kind of been misleading you throughout your life. Like, have you really been following your intuition, or have you been following the deep subconscious? which we all do at different points in our lives until we actually become conscious. Most of us are just wandering around, not really knowing what's going on in the world. So with this lunar cycle, we're finally being called to kind of break away from those old patterns and see the truth for what it really is, and trust more in our inner intuition, trust more in our inner guidance instead of looking towards the outside world for fixing us. We're starting to see how much the inner world is starting to affect our physical reality. Okay, so moving into our moon cards, the first card represents what is rising up in the collective, what is the energy kind of bubbling underneath that is starting to build. Yes, so we have full moon in Sagittarius. Look at the bigger picture. Yeah, we're not seeing things on so surface level anymore. We're starting to dig deeper and see past the illusions of this separateness. I've been seeing a lot of words around the goddess Maya, or even Maya is just used as a word in Hindu and Buddhist culture, but she was the goddess of illusion, or basically like everything you see in front of you, everything that you think is reality is just an illusion. So where are we gaining that perspective and reaching towards new heights? Like, what are we thinking is more possible? What are we aiming towards that maybe just seems out of reach compared to how we were playing small and kind of staying stuck in one place? Now we're just looking at things in a more broad sense. Okay, so the second card represents what the main message of this new moon is. So we have the full moon in Capricorn. The end of a tough cycle approaches. So we are moving into Capricorn season around Christmas time. So this could be maybe just saying for some of you, this is maybe something you're working through over the next couple months. But I think just collectively, like maybe this is a really nice sign that, the end of this really tough cycle, maybe the really hard parts is starting to come to an end, but that doesn't come without still doing the hard work. Like Capricorn is a very hard working sign, and the full moon is the fruition of those endeavors. So, don't stop pushing just because maybe it still feels a little bit challenging, or maybe you're just wanting to kind of give up, you're feeling like you've come to your end, but there's still a few lessons to be learned. So, and again, looking at that big picture, like once we start to gain that more perspective, the sooner this cycle will also start to come to an end. The more we start doing the inner work and the inner gazing, the easier it's going to start to become. All right, so then the last card represents the final outcome, just kind of this overall lunar cycle. So we have the full moon in Libra. A win-win situation is forecast. A win-win outcome is forecast, sorry. So there could potentially be some sacrificing going on, some self-sacrifice. Maybe you're having to let go of old parts of you that you've really identified with for a long time. And it's kind of a hard thing to break away from because it has been so ingrained in you, you almost maybe don't really know who you are without it. But it's a win-win on both sides. And maybe we're also having to, if we're looking at the bigger picture, this could be maybe saying, maybe there are some outside things that are being affected by your energy, like, whether it's your personal relationships, like friendships, family members, whatever. Maybe you're starting to get a deeper understanding of these interactions and what part you've had to play in this. And you're breaking this chain of cycles of maybe you've had the same kind of friendships, the same kind of relationships. And now Libra, is really a love sign and coming to full fruition. Yeah, it's interesting. We have all full moons in this reading. So really saying like coming full circle is something that I see here. But, this could really be you're maybe finding that balanced point too. Something where maybe you're having to give up certain things, but you're gaining so much more. And maybe you don't really know what that is yet. But it's something that's not only you're going to feel more fulfilled in your own life, but it's going to start to reverberate outward. And, maybe you're going to be dedicating more of your service to other people or whoever you work with. But your energy, your shifting is going to reverberate out into the world, and you will start to see that change. Okay. All right, so we have 3 goddesses that wanted to come out for guidance. So this is just kind of like archetypal energy, just a support system that you can call upon throughout this lunar cycle. So the first goddess we have, and we had her for the last full moon as well, is the goddess Azumi. She's really coming here to remind us, like, yeah, maybe if you start to shift that perspective and get a look at the bigger picture, there might be some things that you can just laugh at. I often saw a lot of people in like laughing yoga, or when you're doing inner work and you start to see those personality traits pop up, you kind of just laugh at yourself and say, oh, hey, that's cute, that's funny. And you start to kind of just step back and be more of the observer and detach yourself from this narrative that you have associated with for so long. So find ways to be playful. Like, even though you're digging and doing a lot of shadow work, there's a lot of good coming out of it too. It's a win-win outcome, so try to look at the bright side of whatever is occurring. Okay, so next we have the Spider Woman of co-creation, and she's in protection. So when they're in reverse protection like this, or I shouldn't say protection, this is actually alignment for these cards. So when they're in their alignment position, it just means kind of coming back into that energy. So Spider is like the weaver. Spider brings things together. So with her being in alignment, are you trying to force things to kind of happen? Or are you, afraid that you don't have this support, especially if this is some work that you're really doing on your own, that you're having to dive a little bit more deeply? Or can you really trust that there is an energy out there that as you start to kind of weave together your own life, how you want to create it, that there's something that wants to co-create with you. There is an energy that is going to help you regardless of what your belief is, as you start to line up more with these attributes and what's the word I'm looking for? Attributes and I don't know why I can't think of the word. But things that you line up with personally, like your meanings, your passions, what matters most to you. There will be something else in the outer world that will begin to respond and start to help you weave it together. It's not something that you just have to completely do on your own. So, don't stop. Again, this is saying don't stop doing the work. Like, the end of the tough cycle is approaching. So, it says even if it's just one step at a time, even if the vision doesn't seem fully clear, you can still keep putting effort into it, keep creating. Don't ever stop creating, because creation brings new life. So the more you continue along this path, the more things will start to reveal themselves, slowly but surely. Okay, and then the next goddess we have is the White Buffalo Calf Woman. Interesting that we have a couple native goddesses as well. I really like that. And then I think Azumi is, I I can't remember if she's Chinese or Japanese. I want to say Japanese, but I could be wrong. I'll correct that. So this goddess having to do with reverence. And in her alignment, reverence is like looking back on our ancestral patterns, on our on the journeys that have come before us. And are you looking through that with peacefulness, or are you looking at it as something that was like out to get you, or you're kind of still wallowing in just like this kind of victimhood, instead of like taking the peace pipe of power and just running with it, like looking at the bigger picture of whatever these situations arise. Stop looking at it with a blind eye towards this like victimhood and making yourself into this like disempowered being that you're really not. And how can you rewrite it so that it is a powerful story? Really, again, take those fears. Why are you fearing these things? What is at the root cause of these emotions? And work with that. Like, look at your story through a different lens than what you were looking at before. Maybe your child self, maybe your teenage self, maybe even like your future self. But reverence more so has to do with past situations. And the past affects us more than the future really does. It's what really runs our subconscious and all of our underlying patterns. So maybe changing that perspective. Okay. All right. I think that's everything I have for you for this lunar cycle. So yeah, lots of full moons, like things are coming to an end. Things are fully coming to light. We're going to see more clearly, but we really have to start letting go of those stories, of those old ideas that kept us small, and change our perspective. Give ourselves more power and more loving energy to create more of a victorious story. And remembering that even little by little, like something is shifting and changing. So if you don't see the results now, like just trust that, the cycle is ending and it's going to be a win-win for everyone. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are at. If you really resonated with that, feel free to comment below. I love to hear your stories as well. Feel free to also share, like, maybe even subscribe to my channel. I also have access to my moon letters, which is linked below. I send those out twice a month. That has links to new classes that are coming up or workshops, as well as coupons and things for my services. So also, if you feel free to just tip, donate, maybe buy me a tea or something in exchange for services, I totally appreciate that as well. So thank you again so much, and I wish you a healing and inspiring journey through this next lunar cycle. So thank you again. We'll see you next time.